Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Namaste everyone and welcome to today's session on Isha Upanishad. So last session we started Ishavasya Upanishad. The first session was last Sunday and today we will continue with the second session. Isha Upanishad will be covered totally in 4 sessions. So today will be the second session and I hope you have the book in your hands. Please take it into your hands. We will go bit by bit, take up each mantra, dive into the meaning and what exactly are they trying to convey. See, this is very profound literature and it requires serious thought, a lot of attention. So I want you all to sit like that with the book in your hand and we will begin with mantra number 4, Anejadekam, that one. So first let me just recite the mantra and then we will go into the word meaning. Anejadekam manaso javiyo nainadeva apnuvan purva marshata tadhavato nanyatyeti tishtat tasminnapo matarishva dadhati. Now from 4th to 8th mantra, they are talking of the nature of the self. So this is the most important part of the Upanishad. How are they describing the self? Please see each word. Anejadekam. Anejat means that which is motionless. Ejat means to shake. Anejat means that which does not shake. Motionless, or you can say immutable. That which is not given to mutation. And ekam, it is one. It is the motionless one. Manaso javiyo. Javiya is actually faster and it is faster than the mind, they are saying. The self is faster than the mind. We will go into these ideas, but first the word meaning. Deva enat na apnuvan. The senses, that is why cannot reach this. Purva marshata, yasmat purva marshata, because it exists before the senses and the mind. Tat tishtat, it being steady. Dhavata anyan atyeti, it outstrips the other objects which are running. Tasmin sati, it being present. Matarishva, the cosmic energy or cosmic prana, apa dadhati, all the activities of the cosmic prana are sustained by this self. So what are they trying to tell us in this description? See, the self is one, ekam, then it is unmoving. What is it that is actually moving? See, in your own system, now you will apply the whole thing to your system and study it. I told you it should be first person research, then only you will come to self-knowledge. What is moving in us? The jnanendriyas and karmendriyas are very motile, isn't it? Moving all the time. Your eyes are moving, your body is moving, even though you may be sitting, okay? There is slight movement. And then your mind, of course you are thinking, so there is a lot of movement in the mind. All of these are moving, but the self is not moving. Your awareness is always a constant. Everything else, they are variables. The only invariable in your experience is the self, because your awareness does not move. Then why does it appear sometimes that there is more awareness, sometimes less awareness? Because you are only talking of the awareness in your mind, that which is reflected in your mind. So that awareness can fluctuate according to the density of your mind. But pure awareness in itself does not move, does not mutate. It is fixed. In fact, its reflection in the mind and the movement of the mind makes it appear to move, but in its own real nature it is immovable, it is motionless. So this is what they are saying, and it is faster than the mind. Why do they say this? Does it walk? Does it have speed? Why they are saying this is, wherever your mind goes, it's only in awareness that you perceive through the mind. It is already there, that is why. Awareness seems to be already there, because wherever your mind goes, that destination is perceptible only through awareness. That is why it is faster than the mind. That's the meaning. See, you have to take the implied meanings in all these observations. Maybe not even the literal meaning, but the implied meaning. What is the meaning of it is faster than the mind? It's due to its presence that the mind is functioning. And whatever the mind knows or intuits or finds, it is in the presence of the self. Due to your self-awareness, the mind is functioning. So it is already there wherever the mind goes. This is what they are trying to tell us. Then, having preceded the mind, that is why it is there before the mind. It precedes your mind, it precedes your senses. See, the whole idea in Vedanta is, it is due to the presence of consciousness that awareness arises in the mind, mental awareness what we call. Due to that, your senses start functioning. So this rise of mental awareness is all that you register. You don't know what is behind that. If mental awareness arises, what is its source? So for that you require a little discipline to go to the source of that mental awareness, and that is the self. So that is why it precedes both the mind activity as well as the sense activity. It is behind all of these, and that's why it's invisible, you can't see it, because senses are turned outward and the mind is also turned outward for most of us, isn't it? So then how will you know what is behind it? That is why tapasya and sadhana. So this is how they are describing the self. It is beyond the reach of the senses, and ever steady, it outstrips all that runs. So obviously it is beyond the reach of the senses. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. This is how it is described. That it is that pure being from which both mind and senses return, unable to touch it. And it is so steady, yet it outstrips all that runs. Because wherever your senses go, whatever they see, whatever they hear, whatever your mind thinks, it is only in the light of awareness that is happening. So whatever is the destination of your gaze, the self is already there. It's a poetic way of saying, in awareness you perceive, in awareness you see and think and feel and hear and touch. In the absence of awareness, will any of this mean anything? Think and see. Suppose you were not a self-aware entity. We can take the example of a robot. He is not self-aware, okay? He is doing all the activity, but it doesn't mean anything to him. There is no first person experience of his activity with him. But he is doing all the activity. The mobile phone in your hands, it's doing all the activity but no self-awareness. It has no sense of itself. And because it is not aware, it does not experience. The robot does not experience as we do, but you experience every little thing. Your thought, your emotion, your perceptions mean so much to you. The cognitive process is your very identity. For the simple reason, you are self-aware. Catch this essential point. The expression of pure consciousness within you is the self-awareness in your mind, fundamentally. After that comes the thought process. So because you are a self-aware entity, you experience life. See, look at the connections between consciousness, life, awareness and perceptions. Because you are conscious, deep, you have consciousness as the core, the very seat of your being. That is why there is mental awareness. Because there is mental awareness, a thought process means something to you. Because you have the thought process, you tend to identify with the body, with the senses, and thus relate with the world of objects outside. It all starts with the Atman, pure consciousness, which you are. But we don't think in this manner at all, isn't it? Look at our education process, it's so wonderful to say in the least. There is everything about the external world, from quarks to quasars, everything you know. You know what is happening on Jupiter. You know what is happening in the nebulae and the quasars in the universe. You know what is happening in other galaxies and clusters. But you don't know what is happening in yourself. This is the great enigma of our education system. There is nothing to tell you how does the energy work in your body, how is your mind working, what your thought and emotion is about, why do you feel the way you feel. Is there any knowledge about this? So you have become an alien to yourself, but you know everything about the external world. So tomorrow you people will be changing all this. Once you understand the value of this knowledge, who will not be interested in it? It's to do with you. So then, let's proceed. Then the Upanishad says, by its mere presence, by the Atman's mere presence, it enables the cosmic energy to sustain the activities of living beings. So this cosmic energy is what is called prana, pran shakti jo hum kehte hain. So this pran, what is its source? It is consciousness. You know, elsewhere the Upanishad will tell us, prana is satyam. So Atma is satyasya satyam. It is the truth of this truth of pran. When pran escapes the body falls. This is what is called death. So that important is the vital energy in your system. It's an expression of the cosmic energy, Shakti. Its expression on the individual front in the Vyashti is pran, pran Shakti. Now this pran Shakti has a motivating factor. What is it that motivates your pran? It is consciousness. So that is why it is the ultimate seat of all your activities, of your entire perceptive process, of your thought process, of your cognitions, affections, meditations, of action, of the Gnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. Gnanendriyas are your senses, Karmendriyas are your motor organs. So the source of this entire thing is the self within you. This is what they are saying. It activates you from within, it energizes you from within, and through the vital energy functioning in your body, you execute actions at every level. So this is your core, the core truth about your personality. But we never touch upon this. See, this is the great thing. When I say I only think of what I am attached to. A clear sense of I-ness based on pure awareness. This rarely comes to us. That is why we always insist on sadhana. It is in those times that you will understand the fact about me is that I am just aware. Bare awareness is the most fundamental fact about me. Even the thought process is external to that. So this much you should be able to capture in first person for this Upanishad to make sense, and then we will proceed further. Check and see in your most quiet moments, and when you get up first thing early in the morning, you are just aware, not exactly identified with anything. Then gradually you become body conscious and start relating with, identifying with objects around you. But awareness, that is why we say, is so fundamental to your being that you miss it, you don't acknowledge it. But this Upanishad is helping you, pointing out to the truth of your own experience. The more meditation you practice, the more this will become very clear. Look at the next mantra, the fifth one. Tadejati tannejati tad dure tadvantike tad antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. You know, It's the typical language of Ishopanishad, quite enigmatic. You see how they are describing the Atman further. Tat ejati, it moves. That time they told us it's motionless. Now they are saying it moves, and tat na ejati, it moves not. That is also its characteristic. Tad dure, it is far. Tad antike, it is also very near. It is right within you. Tad asya sarvasya